If you find yourself bracing for punishment, anger, or rejection when you try to protect your own boundaries, stay here for a moment. You know the feeling. You think about speaking up. You think about saying no. You think about setting a limit. And before you even open your mouth, your body is already preparing for the worst. Your shoulders tighten. Your stomach drops. You imagine their face, their voice, the explosion. So you stay silent. Again, if this is you, stay here for a moment. Here is what to understand about this pattern. It is not a sign that you are paranoid. It is not evidence that you are overreacting. It is not a failure of courage or confidence. It is an adaptation. Something your nervous system learned to do. Because at some point it needed to. The energetic memory comes first. Somewhere in your childhood, you learned that asserting yourself had consequences. Maybe you said no and you were punished. Maybe you set a boundary and you were met with anger. Maybe you tried to become more independent, and someone withdrew their love. Your nervous system learned something specific from this. It learned that self-protection is dangerous, that speaking up leads to retaliation, that the safest thing to do is stay small and silent. So your body learned to brace. Not because the current situation is dangerous, because your system remembers what happened the last time you tried to protect yourself. Here is what that means practically. The fear of retaliation is not a choice. It is a conditioned response. When you think about setting a boundary, your nervous system does not evaluate whether the person in front of you will actually retaliate. It activates the old learning. The learning that says, if you assert yourself, something bad will happen. So you brace. Your body prepares for impact. Your mind runs the worst-case scenario. And you stay silent. Not because you are weak. Because your body learned that silence is the only way to avoid punishment. This is the resonance angle. What you are carrying inside resonates with what is outside that matches it. If you learn that asserting yourself leads to retaliation, you will be drawn to people who confirm that belief. Not because you want to be punished, because the familiar feels like home. And people who hear your no without exploding, who respect your boundaries without withdrawing, who do not punish you for being honest. They may feel wrong. It's not wrong because they are wrong. Wrong because your nervous system does not recognize them. They do not fit the template. They do not activate the familiar pattern of bracing and anticipating. The person whose reaction you fear is not more dangerous than you remember. They are familiar, and the dread you feel is not proof that speaking up is unsafe. It is the cost of a pattern that was never updated. Here is what this pattern is costing you. You stay in situations that hurt you, because leaving feels too dangerous. You tolerate what you should not tolerate, because speaking up feels like inviting punishment. Your life is smaller than it could be, because the territory you are willing to walk through is limited by what your nervous system believes is safe. And underneath the bracing, there is a younger part of you that learned that your voice is not allowed. That part is still waiting for someone to say, "You are safe to speak. I will not punish you for protecting yourself. Your no matters." In the session that follows, we are going to work with this pattern directly. Not by rehearsing what to say. Not by convincing yourself that nothing bad will happen. By going into the body, where the bracing lives, and updating what the nervous system believes about asserting yourself. The session will guide you through the felt sense of the anticipation, the beliefs beneath the fear, the younger part of you that learned That self-protection is dangerous, and then it will resource that part with something it did not have back then. Your presence as an adult, your capacity to be with what arises, and a deeper truth about who you actually are. Beneath the fear. Let's now go to the integration session. Up feels unsafe. If you find yourself bracing for punishment, anger, or rejection when you try to protect your own boundaries, stay here for a moment. Take a slow breath and arrive here. You do not need to analyze anything. Let the words land where they land. Your body will take what it needs. This material is emotionally activating by design. It works by meeting what you are carrying directly. To get the full benefit and stay present rather than overwhelmed. Tap gently on a single point as you listen. If you know AFT, you can use all 9 points. But using only a single point, such as karate chop or collarbone, keeps your attention inside the feeling, rather than tracking where to tap next, and is just as effective. And begin. I now recall how this pattern shows up in my life. I tend to assume that speaking up will lead to punishment. I often avoid setting boundaries because I expect anger or withdrawal. I generally believe that protecting myself is dangerous. I usually stay silent because I do not trust what will happen if I am honest. I frequently anticipate retaliation when I try to become more independent. If this resonates, we will now gently connect with the emotional experience behind this pattern. I expect punishment when I speak up for myself. I fear that boundaries will lead to anger, withdrawal, or revenge. I associate self-protection with danger. I feel terrified of how they will react if I say no. I expect backlash when I become more independent. I fear being attacked, shamed, or abandoned for asserting myself. I stay silent because I do not trust the consequences. I believe honesty will make things worse. I brace for retaliation whenever I set a limit. I feel unsafe being direct with controlling people. Even though this part of me fears that speaking up will bring punishment, I deeply and completely accept myself as I am right now. This fear is a passing pattern arising in consciousness, not who I really am. I feel so small when I think about saying no. My throat closes up before I even speak. I remember being punished for wanting something different. I am so scared of their face changing when I push back. I feel the old shame rising in my chest again. Notice how this feels in your body. I cannot breathe when I imagine them walking away. I believed for so long that my voice only causes harm. I am terrified that if I set a limit, they will crush me. Breathe into the heaviness. I keep replaying every time honesty made everything worse. I feel like a child waiting to be hit for talking back. My stomach knots up just thinking about their reaction. I expect revenge, and I do not know when it will come. Let the body soften a little. I notice my mind telling me silence is the only safe choice. I hate how weak I feel when I cannot speak. I am so angry that I have to brace myself just to exist. I feel their disapproval before I even open my mouth. Notice how this story sits in your bones. I believed I deserved the backlash for wanting more. I am exhausted from calculating every word for safety. I watch my mind generating disaster scenarios again. I feel the old terror that saying no means losing everything. Breathe into that tightness. I notice the observer in me watching this fear arise. I have always felt that directness invites destruction. I am still waiting for the blow to land. I can stay here with this fear without it swallowing me. This sensation moves through me while I remain standing. I am not collapsing even as the feeling stays present. Underlying beliefs. Perhaps I believe that my voice has no right to exist in their presence. Maybe I carry a core belief that love and safety require my silence. It is possible that I learned long ago that asserting myself leads to punishment. and my body still lives in that past. I may be confusing their potential reaction with inevitable danger, because my nervous system has not updated the map. It could be that I am replaying an old relationship dynamic, where I was the one who had to disappear to keep peace. There may be a hidden payoff in staying silent. I avoid the momentary terror of confrontation, even at the cost of my selfhood. I could be using hypervigilance as a misguided form of protection, scanning for threat instead of feeling my own ground. It is conceivable that my identity has been shaped around being the one who does not cause trouble, and speaking up threatens that familiar role. I might be holding onto a survival strategy that once worked in a genuinely dangerous environment, but that structure is now being outgrown. This pattern of expecting punishment is from past experiences, and is not the truth of who I am now. Adult self, gently turn toward your inner child. I am sorry to my inner child who experienced that speaking up brought punishment instead of protection. I am sorry you learned that your boundaries were met with anger, withdrawal, or revenge. I see now that you were just trying to survive, and silence felt like the only option. Your awareness is safe now because I am here. And these emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent truths. Inner child speaks. Wait, you are not going to punish me for saying that. Maybe I can try a tiny no and see what happens. Adult speaks. I give you permission to heal the old association between your voice and danger. I give you permission to forgive yourself for all the times you stayed silent to stay safe. I release any guilt and shame you carry about wanting boundaries. I honor our journey together through all that fear. I love you exactly as you are. You are safe to let go and be yourself, because I am here now and always to protect you. The feelings are passing experiences, not defining reality. Now that we have felt and honored the experience, allow understanding and light to arise naturally. Message from higher self. Your voice was never the problem. The unsafe environment taught you that self-protection invites attack. But that was an illusion born of powerlessness, not truth. You are not small anymore. You have the capacity to speak and also to walk away. The fear of retaliation is just a memory dressed up as a prediction. When you feel that old terror, remember, you are not that child, and they are not that person. Your true self has never been touched by any punishment, any anger, or any withdrawal. Those were experiences passing through awareness, not wounds to your essence. Calm returns when you see that the threat was real once, but the alarm system kept ringing long after the danger left. Freedom is not in never feeling fear. Freedom is in feeling it and knowing you are still whole. Filling the void. I can feel the ground beneath me when I consider speaking. There is a quiet backing behind me, even if no one else is there. I can hold the fear without running or freezing. I take one small step forward, not toward their reaction, but toward my own truth. My system learns slowly now, without shame for how long it has taken. The ask, inner child, let me feel what it is like to say a small no and stay in my body afterward. I give myself permission to feel the fear without acting on it, just breathing while the feeling passes. Adult self, I choose to stay present with my own experience even if they react. And I will not abandon myself to manage their feelings. I can pause, feel my feet, and decide what is mine to carry. Higher self, I allow the shift to happen in its own time, without forcing or understanding it. The body knows how to release this pattern when it is ready, and I trust that rhythm. Bridge into your new reality. Before, I braced for punishment when I spoke up. Now, I notice a small pause where I can feel my own ground before I expect anything from them. I used to believe that honesty would make things worse. Now I can feel a subtle openness in my chest when I tell the truth, even if their response is not perfect. Where I once felt terror at their possible reaction, I now notice a quiet curiosity about what I will feel in myself, regardless of what they do. Reclaim your power. I choose to release the belief that my safety depends on their approval. And I embrace the learning that comes from each small act of speaking up. From the observer perspective, I see that the self witnessing this fear has never been punished, attacked, or abandoned. And that unchanging awareness is my real power. Seeing it done, I imagine myself feeling calm and clear when I need to set a boundary. I see myself pausing, breathing, and speaking directly without the old collapse in my chest. Their reaction may come or not, but I feel my own feet on the floor and my own voice as enough. In this parallel reality, I finish the conversation and walk away with a quiet sense of completion. Not victory, just normalcy. I notice that my body is softer and my breathing is steady. I am so relieved that I can say no and still feel safe in my own skin. I love how it feels to speak up and not wait for the blow to land. I breathe easily knowing that my voice belongs to me, and I do not need to manage their response. This way of relating to my own voice is ordinary now. Just another part of being human. There is nothing dramatic about feeling fear and speaking anyway. Now experience a new future. I am about to say something that matters to me. Their presence is nearby, and the old pattern would have me freeze and calculate every risk. But now, I feel my feet on the floor. I notice a small wave of heat in my belly, and I breathe into it without pushing it away. My throat is soft, not tight. I hear my own voice saying a quiet, clear no. The words land in the room. I feel a slight tremor in my hands, and I let them rest on my thighs. I notice their expression change, and I also notice that I do not immediately assume punishment. My breath continues. My chest rises and falls. I feel a strange steadiness, like a tree that bends but does not break. The moment passes. They respond, and whatever they say, I feel my own center still there. I am not waiting for revenge. I am not bracing for withdrawal. I am just here, having said what is true for me. My shoulders drop a little. I feel a quiet relief, not because the outcome was perfect, but because I stayed present with myself through the whole thing. My inner child watches this and feels curious, not terrified. The body learns. I can speak and survive. I can set a limit and remain intact. I finish the interaction and walk away with a normal, unremarkable sense of okayness. This is just how it feels to be a person who can protect their own space without disaster. Allow this felt sense to continue integrating naturally in the body and in life. Take a deep breath, feel the shift, and smile. Let this settle gently. There is nothing you need to do right now. You can return to this whenever you feel called. Be gentle with yourself. If something came up for you while we were here, a feeling, a memory, or a situation where you keep staying silent, I have made a free personal audio session for exactly that experience. It is built around your words, not a script. You can request yours through the link in the description.